In this episode, I get to speak with Jon Groth, a trial attorney in Wisconsin that believes investing in his staff increases not only profits but legal careers, a topic that builds on the foundational values of Eda Rosa LLC. However, conversing with an attorney about something I am so passionate about, now that was epic. Listen in for more. Before we get into this episode, we would like to thank our Season 4 sponsor, Affirm Investigative Solutions, your go-to litigation support company. Without them, we would not be able to keep upgrading and integrating new concepts to this growing podcast. If you would like to take your support further, feel free to hit the support button on our Let's Talk Paralegal website so we can continue providing quality and empowering content for you and all our listeners. Everyone, welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm your host, Eda Rosa, and today we have the amazing Jon. We are going to talk about a couple things, but before we get into all that, Jon, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, your story, and really how you got to where you're at today?
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jon Groth. I am an attorney in Wisconsin, the cold, frigid, frozen tundra of Wisconsin. A little bit cooler than when you are or where you are. So good for you, bad for me, but we make the best of it.
Right.
But yeah, no. So I was born and raised here. I went to law school at Marquette University. I have a pretty good basketball team this year, and I have been a trial attorney for about 24 years. I graduated law school in 2000 and then did general practice work. And then after that went and did trial work for a personal injury firm in Wisconsin. And I was all across the state. If that's Wisconsin, we went all across the state of Wisconsin. And then in 2010, I started my own practice, and I was the attorney, paralegal, case manager, bookkeeper, law clerk, chief floor sweeper, whatever it was at my
We call it
practice.
Chief Everything Officer.
Chief,
So.
yes, exactly. Yeah, very good. Chief Everything Officer. I was that for a while, and then luckily we used our reputation, and it helped us to get referrals and more clients. And now we're where we are now. So we have multiple locations and multiple buildings in the area, and staff that are not only here in this building, but virtual and virtual assistants who are in other nations, and a team approach to practicing law with paralegals and case managers, bookkeepers, different sections, staff who just request medical records, things like that, very department oriented. So we want everyone to specialize in their task and do it really well. And hopefully with everybody specializing in what they do well, it will make sure that our clients get the best treatment and ultimately the best settlement.
Absolutely, right? And it's all about that. I'm curious, so do you guys cross-train just in case, or do you just stick to specifics?
So we are in the process. First off, yes, we do. For example, we had somebody who went on medical leave, and that person's responsibility was requesting medical records, and this person is out, so we had to have others who luckily were trained to do that, and then they've trained others. We actually have a training session tomorrow to train more people to do that job while this staff person's out, while the team member's out. But we have a requirement that you have to watch training or some betterment, like a video on different aspects of our law, of our practice area, at least 1 hour a week. So everybody is required to take that hour to get better at what they do.
I love that. That's amazing. That's definitely teamwork right there. I love the team approach method. That's amazing. Wow. All right. I'm impressed.
Well, thanks.
You have
We're doing
officially
something right.
impressed the consultant to law firm. So let's talk about the required continued paralegal education, which obviously I'm a fan of, right? Because that's what I'm all about, and that's what the podcast is about, and that's really my platform in a nutshell. So I was very intrigued that an attorney, a trial attorney, none other, from Wisconsin, was like, I want to talk about this. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say no to that. So I'm very curious to listen to what you have to say on such a, I guess, very important topic, especially for me. So
yeah, I think, and that goes to what our goal is that everybody's getting better, right? Lawyers have an obligation. We have an obligation to get to maintain our license, that we have to get educated, that you have to have a certain number of hours. And in Wisconsin, it's different than other states, but it's about 30 hours every couple of years, and that you have to go in, and some of those are for ethics. So you have your ethics requirements, and then you can do some continuing legal education for marketing and other stuff that's not really legal. But the goal is that you're going to get better at what you do, because I always say it's practicing law, but you're practicing and hopefully perfecting it. You're never going to get there, but you're always practicing to try to get better, right? So if we have to do it, why? I I just think it's logical that it would be wise to have everybody have to have continuing education in what you're doing. So you can get better at what you do. And if it's a national organization, if it's a state organization, if it's a regional organization, or if it's just the internal in our organization, in Groth Law Firm, if we require that education, you should do it. And again, going back to what I said earlier, that's what we're trying to do. Is we're requiring staff to, no matter where you are in our org chart, that you have to have education so you can get better. So I think being a paralegal is a very important thing, right? It's right up there with your assisting the attorney on some pretty important um, confidential, strategic, all those different things that you can use, though use the different words to describe your role. But they're important, that they're at the level of um, uh, when you know that and you are getting better at it, it's only going to help the attorney. So why wouldn't attorneys all want their paralegals to continuously learn, be
Yeah.
a lifelong learner?
I mean, we need more attorneys like you. I know when I was working my full-time W-2 9 to 5, there were really no attorneys that supported my continuing education in any way, shape, or form. Whether it was to provide me a free day to go to the conferences and get my CLEs, or whether it was to provide a team building exercise at the law firm, like little
Hmm.
things. It doesn't have to be so costly, right? You can definitely, like you said, create on-demand content where they can watch it at their leisure.
Yeah.
And these are simple tasks. And, ethics for me is very important, especially in the legal industry. We all have the same oath, whether you're a lawyer or not, legal professionals, we go under the same oath. And that's literally the heartbeat of the lawyer oath, which is ethics, right? We are bound to those. We're sworn into that. And, it should be held at that standard, right? Which often it's not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just not the case. But and I appreciate that, right? As a paralegal as well and a consultant and all the things, I appreciate that, education is really the foundation of any institution. And unfortunately, it sometimes fails us, or it provides us just with the foundational, right? So our education system as a whole, whether it's a university, whether it's your high school diploma, whatever, degrees you have under your belt at this point, it's just providing you with a foundation. There has to be that continuous cycle, right? That continuous growth. The laws change constantly, right? Ethics is going to change. I believe it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was the Boyd case, right? With the
Hmm.
attorney, you all learned that at law school, and I'm
Yeah.
learning it now. And so, that's a really big, controversial, right? Very difficult, very layered ethics example. And actually, I use that example a lot when I'm doing the trainings for ethics. I'm doing one next week. But understanding that it's not just black and white, that there are situations where there are different levels, and that's why ethics is such a big thing, especially in law. And we have that not only to hold as legal professionals, but as community advocates, because that's at the end what we are. We serve our community. We're here to protect them. We're here to educate them as well and hold their hand, even though a lot of people say we shouldn't be hand holding. And there's a whole controversy on that topic, which is another topic for another day. But, at the end of the day, we're here to serve our communities, right? Which is
Hmm.
why I'm such a big advocate of community service and pro bono and legal aid and all the things that can help us strive as a legal industry as a whole, right? Back to that
Yeah.
whole teamwork approach that you were talking about in the beginning of our conversation. So having said all that and wrapping all that up, are there any, I mean, it looks like you're doing a great job. Are there any maybe tips or maybe advice that you have for both the paralegal and the lawyer? Because I always feel that perspective should be shown
Mhm.
in both aspects in order to create an educational perspective. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So luckily in Wisconsin, and I think Florida is similar, where we have a pretty strong trial lawyers organization,
Yes.
right? Where well, here we have quarterly meetings that they have at a different part of the state. So somebody in the Milwaukee area can go and it's pretty close, or it can be in the Green Bay area or Madison area, for example. And you don't have to go, drive that many hours to get together with other lawyers, other paralegals, other people, and then talk about your industry. So luckily, we have a pretty strong organization that has those meetings, which are open to paralegals and attorneys, and we have on certain meetings, it's a paralegal section that you go in, and then all the paralegals can meet and talk about what best practices are, which I think is fantastic. In addition
Mm,
to that, well, if you have it, so reach out, or if you don't know, reach out and research and see if you do have that, and do you have a paralegal section? I know our trial lawyers section, or our trial lawyers organization, has different sections for different kinds of law. So workers'
right.
compensation, or my just personal injury, in addition to a section for paralegals, and then we have our listserv, so our emails. And I can tell you, I'll do this real time right now.
Mhm.
Um, Today, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, probably 13 emails that have been really conversations today on the trial lawyers listserv, all about things from getting medical records, or health insurance liens, or different venues or things like that, or experts, for example. So those are things that I know we're talking about as attorneys, and I know that I relied on my paralegals to say, hey, this is a question that this is in your wheelhouse. Why don't you go ask the paralegal section and see if other paralegals are probably dealing with the same problems, see if they
Yeah.
have answers. So those are things, everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, most people, they like to be helpful. And
Yeah.
certainly if you're a member of this organization, one of the things that you're going to do is give back and help others. And that's what's really helped me throughout the years. I save all of my trial lawyer listserv messages, and I go in there in a folder, and I'm not going to recreate the wheel. So I do a little search, and I use it as my own personal Google to see what other attorneys had said, maybe 5 years ago, whatever else it is. So you can get a different perspective, or just simply get the answer. So that's my tip of the day, if I have one, is look at your organization and then ask for help. We also have, in the state bar of Wisconsin, we have a mentor program that you can get
Oh,
involved in.
I like that.
That's for attorneys. I don't know if the paralegal section does, but I think that would be uh, a great thing that you should at least ask about, and see if they have those organizations where you can find a mentor, or go to your local, in Wisconsin, it's the different technical colleges where they have paralegal studies, and see if you can see one of the professors there who can help you out and give you a mentor to really understand what you're going to get into if you are in school for this.
Yeah, I was literally just having this conversation today, right before our recording, and it's about opportunities are not going to come to us, right? We need to seek those opportunities. And if something's not happening, if you're not receiving information, or you fill in the blank, whatever your version of what I've just stated is for you at this moment, realize that there are resources out there, right? That all you need to do is look, ask, and seek. I mean, that's really, that
Mhm.
in a nutshell, that's really what life is all about, right? We are literally in the land of opportunity. So there's plenty of opportunity out there. And there's a lot of people that sacrifice a lot of things to come to this country, to get those opportunities. So we need to start taking a look at ourselves and asking why, right? Why
Mhm.
are these people coming to our country seeking opportunities and we're not taking advantage of that? So
No,
that is one
100%.
thing I
Yeah.
always tell, my when I'm coaching my paralegals and I'm training them up and everything, that is, we work on the mindset first, right? Because It's all great and dandy. You can ingest the information, but it's one thing to ingest the information. It's another to actually understand and be ready for it, right? So understand that you can be in a classroom like back in the day. Right now, it's not like that because I'm currently in an educational program right now kind of upskilling myself as well because I can't teach what I don't know.
Hmm.
So, upskilling myself as well, I decided to go back for a master's degree. And the dynamic of how we're learning right now is very different. Back in 2010, which I believe was my last degree, it was very lecture oriented. They would just stand there, they'd provide you a presentation, and they would just lecture you the whole
Yeah.
time. And all you were doing was taking notes. And now it's not like that. The new dynamic of education, which I love because I'm not one of those regurgitate information kind of people, is pretty much read your chapters, get prepared for class because we're going to talk about it. And
Hmm.
whatever you didn't understand and whatever questions, were ignited during your readings, ask them right during
Yeah.
class because we're going to have a
More conversational.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's about communication, right? And it also, as legal professionals, that's all we have, right? We are communicators, we are translators, right? We interpret the law, we put it on a pretty paper in a pretty format in whatever way the judge and the courts want it, and we implement it, right? We take our story from our client, we convert it, we put it into the funnel, like I call it, we put it in a
Hmm.
paper and we give it to the judge. And that's what we do. But all that is communication, whether it's written, verbal, during arguments at trial, or depositions or mediations, or whatever the
Hmm.
case may be. It's all about communication and community service. And that's what we are in a nutshell. And I feel like sometimes, when I was younger, and this was back in the 80s, quick story time. Quick story. It was all about, do you want to be a lawyer, doctor, or astronaut or engineer, right?
Okay.
Those were your four options in the
All
80s.
right.
And so I chose lawyer, right? I was like, well, no, I love law. I love how, it like integrates with everything that we
Hmm.
touch. And I just love that learning law kind of, I learn everything, right? Because it really is anything that you touch has a legal concept behind it.
Yeah.
And that really intrigued me at a very early age. I'm talking about like I was 6. So definitely, very early on, I knew I wanted to be in the legal industry. But back in the day, I didn't know anything about what a paralegal was, or a vendor, or consultant, or educator,
Hmm.
or any of the things that I'm doing now, right? It wasn't like an option. You were either a lawyer or you weren't. Like that was it. And so
Yeah.
I often get asked that question, why didn't you become a lawyer? And I was like, I found a different way. I found a way where I can still utilize my skills, still make the money that I want to make, and still give back to the community just as well.
Yeah.
So, you do not have to be, doctor, lawyer, astronaut, engineer to make a difference or, kind of live the life that you want to live. So
Well,
yeah,
and to
getting
some
off my
part,
soapbox here.
but you don't know what you don't know. I mean, when you're 6, or even now, if adults might not know that there are other options out there, and that's where it's nice to have your community or others that you can go to and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking of. Are there other options? I mean, I tell the story. I have a friend of mine, a very old friend of mine, way back from the 90s, so whatever. But he's an attorney, but he's done law involving um, dinosaur bones.
Huh,
Well, you know, I would
okay.
never have thought that you can be a lawyer that specializes to some degree in um, whether somebody stole bones from some country or something else, and then there's some trial work involved because you're having hearings to say whether, well, you stole these or this country wants them back or whatever. I mean, so there's so many options out there in the law or in the business of law, being a paralegal, being maybe you're an accountant or a bookkeeper that is helping with the books, or an office manager, or the operations manager for a law firm. I had one of my very first jobs was at a law firm in Chicago, and they had a person who had a business degree, had a master's, and he was in essence, the chief operating officer of the law firm. And I was like, well, how can that happen? Because you're not a lawyer. And for me, it
Mm,
was just kind of weird that, well, so you're operating your law firm like a business, but so how do you have this? And that law firm is extremely successful, and because they have always had that mindset, and they hired somebody who likes the law, and but didn't get a law degree, instead manages lawyers. It's like, well,
Hmm.
good job. So there's so many options out there. But as a 6-year-old or as a younger person or even as my age person, you don't know what you don't know until you go looking. And that's what you said earlier, which I think is a great idea, to always be questioning, always be on the lookout for opportunities. And it kind of goes hand in hand with being a lifelong learner.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that we lost our curiosity along the way, right? Because as kids, I see it in my own kids. My kids are 7 and 5. And as I see them grow and progress and become their own little person, right? For lack of a better word, I see the curiosity. They ask the questions. Hey, mommy, why is this this? And why is that that? And what is this? What does that mean? Because I use big words, right? And I'm using quotations for those
Hmm.
of you that are listening. I use big words in front of them. I speak to them just like if they were adults. And if they don't understand it, they're more than welcome to ask me, hey, mom, I didn't understand that word. Can you please explain to me what that means?
Hmm.
So my 7-year-old says things like advisement.
Yeah.
So they're like, what? And what was the other word that she used the other day? And it's like, I want to consider this. Like instead of
Yeah.
like I'm thinking about it or something like that, she's like, I will consider that or I want to consider this. And so, you got to lead by example as
Hmm.
well. And, I've always considered myself a leader, but I also like to look at other people as well, right? Like some of my ideas are not really original, right? Like it's just the way I implement them and the way I morph them into my world, right? So I take, perfect example. Right now we're working on a program where we're taking concepts from people like Adam Grant, which is a organizational psychologist, really big in the industry, works with like Google, Facebook, all the big, Silicon Valley companies. And I don't know, I gravitated to him because one, he has a podcast, which I love to support my fellow
Hmm.
podcasters. And two, he's just very famous. He was all over my feed and he was just very, he
Hmm.
interviews high-end, people, and it just caught my attention. And Brene Brown as well, which is she's not even a psychologist. She just has a psychology degree, but she never actually went into psychology, but also has amazing points. And so, I'm learning a lot of those concepts that are not, I mean, yeah, they have some legal in them because like I said before, right? There's
Hmm.
always a legal concept behind everything. But it's more of like mindset, how the mind works, how the human works, right? Because at the end of the day, when we are not training our clients, but when we're guiding our clients for a deposition, preparing them for the deposition or a trial, which is super scary, especially for someone that has never been in a courtroom. It's probably
Sure.
the first time getting introduced, and you, above all people, would know the disparity, right? Sometimes that these clients go through. It's really like a mindset shift for them, right? Because they're out of their element, they're
Hmm.
not doing their own work. And now they're talking about topics that maybe at times, depending on what practice you're practicing, is very sensitive information, very like they have to relive that moment, however traumatizing it was.
Yep.
And it's very hard to be that vulnerable, which is why I gravitated to Brene Brown because she has a whole thing about vulnerability, that vulnerable in front of people, right? That you don't know. They're strangers. You're not even
Yeah.
in like a psychology office where it's closed and nobody's listening, right? So we got to put ourselves in that situation, right? Because we're so prone and so automated to just do our job, right? And just get it done because that's what we've been trained to do, both as lawyers, paralegals, and anywhere in between. So we have to kind of say, oh, wait, they don't really know anything about what's happening, right? So this can be very scary for them. So maybe we should step back and not say that they're a difficult client, right? We got to change our language. They're not
Yeah.
difficult. They're just going through like a really tough situation. And we got to
Well,
recognize that.
and that's something that we say all the time, that we don't have difficult clients. We have clients in difficult situations. So
Love that.
I'm
I'm writing
impressed
that
that you
down.
said that, because that's something that we have probably on a weekly basis. We say that about our clients because, yeah, I mean, you have somebody who was involved in a car accident yesterday. They lost their car. They can't get to work. They got to now pay a deductible for whatever repairs on the vehicle, or and how do you then pay for your copays to go to the doctor? So all that's happening, and you're
Yeah.
freaking out, and you
Hmm.
call your lawyer and you want some answers, but the insurance company's dragging their feet. So, yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because it's something we deal with certainly on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the single mom that needs that car, right? Or the
Hmm.
single parent, let's not label it.
Yeah.
The single parent that needs that car that needs to go pick up their children. I literally was just having this conversation yesterday with a client of mine. We were going through the caseloads and we were going through all the dynamics and really that's part of our consulting, right? Just like really going through it, the dynamics, whether or not they would make a good witness, the whole nine yards, right? Is a very strategic, analytical portion of the consulting that we do.
Yeah.
And I was like, I spoke to this client. They're very distressed. They are under a lot of medication because of it, because of
Hmm.
prior trauma. And so, we might want to just settle this one out, just
Hmm.
try and work, but those are conversations you need to have. And I really want to empower and encourage those legal support staff members that are listening. You have to have these conversations with the lawyers, right? The lawyers only see 10% of the client. We're the ones that are working with them day in, day out. We're the ones collecting the documents. We're the ones reviewing them, analyzing them, summarizing them, and providing them for the review of an attorney or a manager or however your, firm is structured at the moment.
Hmm.
So understanding that nobody's really going to know that client as much as you and the ins and outs and the twerks and the little triggers and things like that. Like I remember when I was a litigating paralegal, I would sit in at the depot preps, at the
Hmm.
mediation preps, and I would kind of like really do the notes, right? Like the what they call now the minute taker. That was me.
Hmm.
I was doing
Okay.
that the whole time and making sure, and we would record it so that they can see themselves or put them in front of a mirror so that they can see their mannerisms. Like we went all out, right? Just to prepare this person because it's very daunting. I think
Oh,
the only
yeah.
way that I can really paint this picture to someone that has probably never done this before is think of an interview. Like when you're going to interview, these are a whole bunch of strangers. You're out of your element. You have no idea what to expect. You don't know these people. And here you are. They're going to ask you 5 million questions and you better be prepared.
Yeah.
That's really the only really, and then just add some trauma to it. Like that's really what's
Yeah.
going to happen, right? So, we had to understand that people are humans, right? We're human. We have our past, we have our future, and we have our present. So we just need to really hold that and really facilitate that for our clients at the end. So, but thank you, Jon. I
Yeah.
appreciate you being such an amazing leader, not only within your firm, but outside, taking the time and spending it with me here at this Let's Talk Paralegal podcast and really empowering not only your colleagues, as lawyers, right, through your trial attorney associations and the state bar and all the other organizations that you're probably involved in, but also supporting your own staff, right? Because at the end of the day, you know that by investing in them in some way, shape, or form, it'll ultimately, just bring you tenfolds back. So
Yeah.
definitely appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. That's the hope is you can't be afraid of losing good people. You want to create a culture, create an organization that people are going to be able to grow in. And if they grow in a way that they go to a different position, then that's good for them. But
Right.
while they're with you, make them the best person that they can be. And that's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then if they leave your firm or they grow within your firm, which is the ultimate goal, but if they
Hmm.
leave the firm, you don't want them to leave with a bad taste in their mouth, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
say, I outgrew this firm, but they provided me with so much more. And that's
Yeah.
really the reputation aspect of business in law. So understanding that as well and the importance of your reputation when it comes to employees, right? Because we look at
Yeah.
reputation as far as clients, referrals, and reviews and all the other good stuff that comes with running the business of law. But, having your employees talk well about you even after they've left and just say the only reason I left is because I outgrew the firm. I mean, that's the best compliment any leader could have. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the hope, right?
That's the hope.
All right,
Well,
that's
we're
all
going
for
to
today,
continue to
guys.
practice. All right.
Oh, of
Thank you very
course.
much.
That's all for
Yes.
today until justice is served, everybody.